All right, here we go. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Gunn, and I'm coordinator of digital scholarship here at Catholic University of America Libraries. I am joined by my associate, Michaela Champion, who's a graduate library pre-professional in our libraries. Michaela will be handling the chat and any questions that come in, so feel free to ask questions through the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask a question, that's fine too. Today's workshop is on how to use OpenRefine for cleaning data. So this is a really excellent open access tool that we can use for cleaning data, and I highly recommend taking a deeper dive after today's session. Today's session is just going to be an introductory session. So I'm just going to show you some interesting things and then leave it at that. All right, so let's get started. So what are we going to do today? So we're going to just talk quickly about what is clean data and why do we want clean data. Sometimes it's not obvious. We're going to look at some common problems and the solutions for cleaning the data, and we'll try to do hands-on as much as we can. And then I'll do a very brief introduction to the GREL. It's an expression language within OpenRefine. And it's quite useful for cleaning your data. So let's go. All right, so what is data? What is data cleaning? Data cleaning is the process of fixing or removing everything from incorrect, corrupted, incorrectly formatted, duplicate, incomplete data within a data set. And of course, with all this different types of corruption, if you will, there are different ways files can be corrupted, they can be incorrect and all that. So you spend a lot of time cleaning your data. So it's good to be familiar with the basic steps. So why do you clean your data? So data can be unfinished, it can be unreliable, inaccurate, false, or non-relevant. Dirty data needs to be restored, it needs to be remodeled or removed as necessary. So you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can do data cleaning. You can use batch processing through scripting. Helps if you have basic knowledge of a programming language, that sort of thing. You can also use things like data wrangling tools that will help you. And hopefully OpenRefine will be one of those. All right. So there's a survey done a few years back. I love showing this slide. It interviewed a bunch of data scientists, and they asked, what do you spend most of the time doing here? So, building training sets, 3%, collecting data sets, 19%, all this sort of stuff here. Whenever you're doing a research data life cycle, you have to build your data set, you have to clean it, then you can analyze it using various, data visualization tools, that sort of thing. So today we're just doing the middle part, the cleaning part. And then notice here it says most of their time, 60% was cleaning and organizing data, which is very interesting. And it can be very time consuming. What's kind of funny about this is that what is the least enjoyable part of data science? And there it is, cleaning and organizing data was 57%. So it's like a necessary evil. You have to do it, but it can be quite tedious in parts. All right. So data tidying. If you have not read Hadley Wickham's article, Tidy Data, it's in the Journal of Statistical Software from 2014. It's a seminal article to get your bearings on how you go about tidying data. So you want to do that so you can you'll be structuring data sets to facilitate analysis. I highly recommend that article. So data set, what is it exactly? It's a collection of values, with every value belonging to a variable and an observation. So when you're looking at tidy data, you're looking at, well, how do you organize it? So you're looking at columns and rows. So each variable will form a column and each observation will form a row. And when you put these together, it'll be an observational unit, and that will form a table. And that is what we will be working with today. So common messy data set issues, I mentioned some of the different ways that data can be corrupted or incorrect, that sort of thing. But there's other things too. You can look at column headers that are values that are not variable names. You can have multiple variables stored in one column. You can have variables stored in both rows and columns, so it gets kind of messy. And you have multiple types of observational units that are stored in the same table. So if you're using, let's say, retrospective government data, that sort of thing, these are issues, these are questions you have to ask yourself when you're evaluating this data, and whether you're deciding whether you want to use it or not. And then last, you have a single observation unit can be stored in multiple tables. So you have to extract those particular units and put them into a common table. So that's basically some of the things that we'll be doing today. I should mention too, though, just to flip it to the other side of the equation about cleaning data, there's a great blog post by Ross and Munoz called Against Cleaning. It came out in 2016, and I recommend that you take a look at this blog post. Their project was curating menus from open data from the New York Public Library. What they've discovered is that there's a lot of interesting raw data within the particular data set, and you have to ask yourself questions. If I remove a particular concept or word on that, what am I doing exactly? So there's always the issue of reductionism, and that you're eliminating possibly valuable data from if you start removing data points, so variables in that. They talk about being somewhat reductionistic as well. They also mention that, talking about messy data, cleaning data implies that there's messiness to it. And if you're saying, well, that's messy data, then there's some sort of implicit underlying order to what it is that you want to do. So you have to be cognizant of it, be aware of what it is that you're trying to impose on this messy data. It may work, it may not work. Got to be careful about that. So I just recommend this article moving forward, this blog post. All right, so what is OpenRefine? What is it? Where does it come from? And who uses it? So it is a powerful tool for working with messy data. You're cleaning it, transforming it, from one format into another. You can extend it with web services and external data. So it's quite a robust tool that you can definitely go into the deep end in terms of trying to work with it, depending on what sort of data that you're starting off with and what source of that data is. So OpenRefine, it's very interesting. It has the characteristics of a spreadsheet, but it is not a spreadsheet. So it works more like a relational database. So where did it come from? Well, it came from MetaWeb way back in the day. It's called Freebase GridWorks. MetaWeb was bought by Google in 2010, and they changed it to Google Refine. They held on to it for a couple of years, and they said, you know what, we're just going to make it open source software. So they renamed it OpenRefine. It's been around and that role has been around for about 11 years now. And like I said, they've been adding tons of stuff over the years, making a much more robust tool for use. So they do OpenRefine, folks who run it, they've done surveys over the past several years. And here's the latest one that they did last June. They do one every 2 years. And they just put out here, who uses it. And you can see from the red from 2020, librarians are very much well represented here, because we do use data quite a bit. They restructured the survey last year just to make sure they're getting abroad. They reached out to various communities and that. So that's why the blue part, the 2022, is much more even across different people, folks, communities that are using it. So everything from data journalism, government, research, all these right across here, data science and all that. So you get a real good cross section of folks that are making use of this tool. And some of the tasks that they do, everything from data transformation to understanding, analyzing, making better sense of data sets, cleaning and normalizing, all these sorts of different things, importing data, working on taxonomies, thesauri, vocabulary. So it is, like I said, quite a robust tool. And they also have plugins and extensions that you can use here. So they did survey, excuse me, their folks. A lot of people were not aware of these plugins and extensions, but you can see Wicca data is used quite extensively in OpenRefine. You can see they even have special buttons for that. We won't get into that. That's a totally different workshop, frankly. You notice the different things here, OpenStreetMap, GeoJSON export, named entity recognition, all these RDF extensions, DB, extensions. Just a lot of stuff for open data, open link data, all this that's listed here. So very cool. So I just list here the sources for you. And our next stop is to go in and take a look at this. So what we're going to do is get out of this slide here. There we go. So I sent out an email yesterday evening with the links to the handouts and the data sets that we're going to play around with. Okay. So let's see what we're going to do here. First thing I should mention is we'll go to the website. So if you haven't downloaded it, OpenRefine, you can do that from here. The current version is 3.7.1. So it'll take a little bit of time in that. So if you haven't done that already, don't worry about it. You can follow along. Like I said, I'll make the recording available later and you can go back in and play with it that way. So I'm going to demonstrate some of the interesting things. So I've downloaded it. It's on my computer and I'm now going to launch it. A little black box is going to come up here. It is run on Java. So you'll have a little black box that'll pop up. And you'll notice that there's a URL coming up here, 127.0.0.1:33333. That's sort of the default page. So if the Java module ran properly, correctly, then you should be looking at a page like this. All right, so let me take you for a little quick walk around the park here. You'll notice right away, it's good for importing data. What kind of data can you import? Well, you've got quite a bit here. You have everything from tab separated values to comma separated. You have Excel spreadsheets you can put in here, JSON, XML, RDF as XML, and Google data documents are all supported through here. And there's extensions, and so you can add even more data as well. So you really got to be familiar with the data set that you're using. That we're going to be focusing on comma separated values today. It's just easier to use, frankly. So you can do this computer, you can browse and get it. I just want to do a very quick work through here. So you have a web address that you can pull in, the clipboard database. If you're pulling from a particular database. So you have to have a little bit of knowledge of how exactly you do that. I'm not going to do that today for you. You also have Google data. So what I'll tell you this much, you can log into your Google account if you have one. I hope you do. And it will take you to, once you do log in, it will list right here all your Google Sheets listed here. So you can pick whatever you want and then go from there. So just to give you an idea, I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm going to go back to this computer. I've downloaded my data set. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead and do that. What I will do, let's see, put the link in the chat, and you can you can go there. It should be open to anyone who has the link. So I'm going to be working off of the OpenRefine workshop tutorial final document. So if you wanted to pull that up, that would be good. In the meantime, I'm going to go browse. And the first document I'm going to bring up is, let me just bring this down a little bit. All right. Is the comma separated values. Let me show you this. There it is, comma separated values. So I'll double click on that and you'll know it's loaded up right here. Authors people .csv. So I'm going to click on next. And here we are. So it seems to have loaded properly. So let's take a quick look around. We have all the various different headings here, and we look at particular data that's listed here. You'll notice down below some important factors that you should take a look at. We're doing comma separated values, separated based here. You notice if I scroll down, you know, all these different ways that you can load the data, your particular file, depending on what the data is. And you can pull from these different ones here. I'm not going to do that. You can look at your character encoding. So we're using Windows 1252 standard, but let's say if I want to change it up slightly, I can click on that. And that will take me to other common encodings that I can use. So various ISO standards, UTF-16, UTF-8, if you want to get really basic. So again, it's useful to know that sort of basis by which your data is going to be based on. So I'm just going to stay with Windows 1252 right now. It lets you know that we're doing comma separated value. And it has used character quotation marks to enclose cells containing column separators. So if we were to deselect that, it would show all of a sudden all this different columns and that sort of thing. I'm just going to keep it as is. You can look at over here. You know, you can attempt to parse cells, text into numbers, that sort of thing. So my recommendation when you first get your data set, I recommend examining it, looking at how it may change using these different parameters and that. You sort of have to document what it is how you're setting up your data within OpenRefine. That way, if things go screwy down the road, you can go back and take a look and you'll think, well, maybe I shouldn't have used Windows 1252. Maybe I should have used UTF-8 or 16 or an ISO standard. So you sort of have to keep these distinctions in mind. I also want to show you here, just to give you a different variety here. I'm going to go up here and I am going to open another browser. And right now, all I can do is cut and paste this URL. There's no other really way in here that one can open up another browser. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. So the first thing you get to notice is you get to have multiple files open at the same time, which is kind of nice. I'm going to go into Browse Files again, and I'm going to do the Excel Microsoft Excel worksheet. So there it is. And I want to show you something just to be aware of it. So it's going to load up here. Okay, sure is going a little slow. All right, buddy. Okay, then. So now, just to bring home the point, it's now loading as an Excel file here. And you'll notice the limitations on this. Oh, there's different options that you have. Looking at this. So again, it's something to keep in mind. Don't treat every file as the same as every other file, even if you think coming from Excel or coming as a common separated value that they're the same thing. So they're not really. I should point out too, and when you look at your data, it becomes kind of apparent. So if we looked at our original set here, you'll notice it's all in black. You notice this number here, it's to the left, like the names and all that. If you look at the date of publication, it has all these different years listed here. So it's obviously needs to be cleaned up a bit. So if you look at those, just an example. Now, if we look at the Excel spreadsheet, you notice a couple things. One, the number is shifted to the right, and it is green. And if you notice under date of publication, anything with had any text in this kept to the left as text, but any number that is here that's not encumbered by letters has shifted to the right. It is telling you it's in green, and it is a numerical value. So right away, you have to decide, am I going to use all of this as text, or am I going to move the numbers to actual numbers? What am I going to do with that? So that's something to keep in mind moving forward. All right, so I'm going to get out of that one, and I'm going to go here. All right, so we've looked at our data here. We've sort of set it up with our different parameters. And now we're looking at the actual data itself, right? So we said, okay, what do we have to work on here? And you can see right away, 45726, what's that all about, right? So I guess I do want to have this one in here. So how do I decide, what do I decide who the author or person is of this? It's not a empty cell. It's not a null cell. It's definitely has something in there. So there's one way that I could possibly find out, who is the author of this title, and that is to do a search on the ISBN. So it's kind of easy in that sense. So you can go in, do a search for that in Amazon or whatever, come back with the title and put it in there. So that's one quick way to deal with sort of numbers like that, if assuming that field has an ISBN. So when you scroll down here under author names, you notice typical name, and then you look, oh dear, there's a period here. That's a period, and it seemed to go down further. So all of a sudden we have periods and we don't have periods. So there's a little bit of cleaning up that has to be done there. We look at the next one, and we also see similar things here as well. Periods after X-Men, but not Trails End, for example. We look at place of publication. We have empty cells, so we have to make a decision what we want to do with those. We also have, here we have the place of publication. Where is Holmes Chapel? I have no idea. Where's Turnbridge Wells? Oh, hey, London. That's great. So you're going to have to make a lot of these decisions and evaluate each one as you're going along. Under publisher, you have different varieties of type, and we'll get to that in a second. Data publication, you have C's, you have brackets, you got everything, right? This is a messy data set. Look at ISBNs. We have more than one ISBN listed, so we have to separate that out. So a lot of problems I mentioned earlier are right in this particular database. So we're ready to go. We've got everything set up. So what we can do is we can call this project name Authors People CSV. Why not? Stick with it. We're going to click on Create Project. And here we go. So first thing we notice is changed slightly. We're only having 10 rows listed here. I'm going to click on 25 and just get us moving here. So there we go. So we got a little bit more. We got a broader sense. We've got 17,000 rows. You can look at the next page, or you can go to the very last page if you so desire. So we're looking at this, and at this point, we're going to start with the handout. So we're going to look at 4 basic tasks today, and that is facet searching, filtering, clustering, and then how to transform data. So I'm just going to give you representative examples of how to do all of this. So this particular data set that we're using is a comic book collection from the British Library. It's been around for a few years, and a lot of different librarians and instructors that use this particular one because it's a really good example of how to go about cleaning data. So what we'll do here, so we're going to do facet data, and I'm just going to follow in the handout here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the publisher column here. So here's publisher. You'll notice that before we didn't have any options of what to click on or what to use in that. Now we do. Each of these columns has a little triangle, like a little blue diamond, if you will. I'm going to click on that, and up pops a menu. And I'm going to select facet. And then I'm going to select text facet. And on the left-hand side here, all my publisher names are presented here. So we have a lot, and you'll notice a number of things. You can click on the title on the publisher, and that'll take you to the particular field. You can edit and that sort of thing. So we're going to look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down. We're going to look at Titan as an example. So just getting to know our data, we'll notice we have Titan listed here, 3,600 records. We have Titan as 5 here. So what's the difference between that? I'll give you a hint. It's called an empty space. We have distributor and then the different marks here. So you notice there's a lot of records listed here. And we have to make a sort of a decision here. What is Titan? Is it the same as Titan Books? Are these all the same publisher? So that's an important thing to think about. So there you go. What can we do here? So we notice that Titan is listed. So we can do a name on the left-hand side. We scroll down to Titan, we observe the variant representatives of Titan. So we can hover the cursor to the right of the Titan thing. So here's a quick way we can do. So we have Titan here, and I can click Edit. And you'll notice right away, we have Titan Book. And what we can do is we can change that if we wanted to. So I'm going to change that to Titan Book and do it as books. Oh, where'd you go? So now we have Titan Books 371 and Titan Books slightly different. So let's take a look at Edit. And we notice that there was a space there because it's selected more. So I'm going to delete that, click on Apply. And all of a sudden, Titan Books went from 3 to 1, listed here. So here's a very interesting thing, a tool at this point that you may want to be aware of. And that is, let's say I went too far and I made a mistake. So what I can do is I can go up right here under Undo. And it will tell me the actions that I took are listed here. So let's say I did the last one. I realized, oh no, that's a mistake. I'm going to come back to this one here, and it will give me that. Look at that, Titan Books and Titan Books again. So you can't really make a mistake, and you can't really, if you make a mistake, you can undo it just by going and using the undo redo button. That is a very important thing. So my recommendation is when you do hit a point where you are you've done a lot of work and you've saved it and you're confident that it's a much cleaner data set, then I definitely recommend that you export it in the top right-hand corner here. And it'll give you a whole bunch of listings and that. We'll get into that in a bit. All right, so that is a very quick way of bringing all of that together. You can clean it by that. You can also, I should mention this right here. And okay, so that's actually our facet data. What I'm now going to do is do filter data. So we're going to go to the publisher column again. And we'll have the pull down menu. And we're going to do text filter. So I'm going to click on that. And again, on the left-hand side, you can only search for what you put in. So I'm going to put in Titan here. There it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and clean it up there. So what happens is, it doesn't look like anything's happened, but if you look up here, you have 4,684 that match Titan. So you can do that. Now, if you're very much case sensitive, you can click on case sensitive and you have 0 listed here. So that tells me that all instances of Titan are capitalized. So again, it's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. All right, so looking at our records here, I should point out that you have the option of going in and changing a particular cell right here. So right now we've been looking at a column as a whole. But let's say I just want to change this thing here. I can go in, I can take that, remove that. I can apply just to this cell, or I can apply all instances where they had square brackets around Titan. I can apply to all of this. So let's click on that. And you'll notice right up here at the top, it says mass edit 200 cells in column publisher. So that's great. So it definitely helps. So that's another way that one can begin cleaning your cells. So bit by bit by bit. All right, so we're going to go back here. I'm going to click that out. All right, so we've done facet and filtering. We're now going to use cluster data. So we're going to go to publisher once more. We're going to go to edit cells. You'll notice here we have edit column, transpose, all these different things. We're going to do edit cells. And we're going to go down and do cluster and edit. And boom. Here's how we can clean up even further. If we wanted to do a piecemeal with the brackets around Titan, we could do that. But we also have this, a cluster and edit call for publisher. And what it has here, what it's done is taken similar instances of Titan and that and brought them together. Now you're asking yourself, okay, how exactly did they do that? Well, they have algorithms. And here's the two big ones here, key collision and nearest neighbor. So we're sticking with key collision, and from here, from the keying function, a number of other algorithms that can be used here. So again, it's not for today, it's for the future. If you want to know this, you'll have to spend some time on it. They have a find out more button. So if I were to click on that, it takes you to their website, and it will explain to you the different types of algorithms that they're using. So this one is the key collision that we're using is put together by phonetic or clustering in that example. So there it is. So what we can do at this point, we can do merge this one, we can merge this one, we can name them the same, and we can go from there. So we can export these clusters, we can merge selected and recluster. So you can go through this list and keep combining Titan, 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 and then give it all one note. And that, again, you have to assume that Titan and Titan distributors, for example, are the same entity. So I'm going to merge these two selected ones here. And we get a mass merge listed here. All right. So what we can do at this point, our next step is going to be transforming data. So there's two ways to transform data. So we can use the preset transformations that are listed in there, or we can use GREL, which is the OpenRefine expression language. So let me show you how to do that. So your preset transformations, if you go under Publisher yet again, and you go to Edit Cells, and then if you go to Common Transformations, so they list the most common ones here, dealing with empty string, null, numbers, this sort of thing. And we want to do trim leading and trailing white space. So we'll click on that. And it tells you that we trimmed 538 cells in column publisher. So you have to ask yourself, do you just do this as a standard practice for any data set and do it across all columns just to make sure you're eliminating white space? Or do you feel confident when you have this particular file that the white space has already been taken out? So these are sort of questions you have to ask yourself. So that is using example of preset transformations. We're going to use GREL now. So let's try we're going to change it up a little bit and go to author persons. And what we're going to do the pull down menu. We're going to do edit cells. And we are going to do transform. Ooh. So all of a sudden we have this page will come up. We know we're going to be using GREL. And I recommend we're going to use something very basic. And that is we're going to use value replace. And I'm going to put this. And you'll notice what I really like about this page is that it'll tell you if what you're typing in is incomplete so far. So I'm going to do a single quotation. I noticed that there are periods throughout the names in the column. So I'm going to take that. And I'm going to take that. So that's my first argument, if you will. Then I'm going to put a comma there. And then say, what do I want to replace it with? I want to replace it with nothing. So I'm going to do two quotes, single quotes together. Then I'm going to close that up. And here's the thing. First, it tells me there's no syntax error, which is great. Well, what it did is that it gave me a preview of what it will look like. So notice I mentioned the periods here before, right? Now they're gone. So this is a very simple example. There it is. I'll change that. Text transformed on 10,000, almost 11,000 for using this particular, right? So if I go to undo on the left-hand side here, it keeps track of what I was using here. So here I use value trim. Here I use value dot replace. So you can keep track of how you're cleaning the data and for the reasons why. So at this point, if we wanted to, we did some good work on this, we wanted to save it for another time, we can go to export. And then you have all this list here. So we could do a CSV, common separated values, probably the most common one. But we can also do custom tabular. So if you look at custom tabular, you have all these different ways that you can export. So you just don't have to accept what you've got here. You can say, well, you know what? I want to reorder the columns here. So maybe I just want the first 4 and that's it, and get rid of the rest. You can do that. You can have listed the very reconciled cells, the output, and it takes you back to the particular standards that you can use. So you have output empty rows if you wanted. You can ignore facets and filters and export all rows. So you definitely do have a lot of options here. All right. So that is that particular data set. So we are going to move on. If there are no questions, we will move on to the next data set here. And you'll notice at this point, since I'm within it, this particular file, this particular data set, it says open right here. So I'm going to click on open. And it's going to load a new browser with a fresh page. Hey. All right, so what I'm going to do is select the next one, and that is the Powerhouse Museum. So that is there, and I'm going to select Powerhouse right here. This is also common separated value. And then I'm going to click on next. Now this one is very highly cleaned up, very little in it, but you can still use it to learn some things. You'll notice this one here has UTF-8 listed here. And it looks more or less the same other than that. So that's good. All right, so we're going to move forward with this. We have our name, project name, and we're going to click on Create Project. And it'll load it up. So here we go. So this is the Powerhouse Museum. It's the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences from the Sydney Powerhouse Museum in Sydney, Australia. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to play around with this for just very briefly here. I'm going to go to Object Title, and I'm going to pull that down, and we're going to look at Facet and Numerical Facet. So we've been looking at text more or less, but now we're going to do Numerical Facet. And you'll notice what has happened is that there's no numerical facet present in this thing. So that is kind of interesting. Pardon me, I used the wrong one. I should have done object title. So let me do that, faceted and numerical faceted. There you go, and there's no real change. So there's no numerical value present listed there. So if I go to record ID and I do edit cells, the next step is that I can go to edit cells. So I point out the object title in case there's any numbers in there, they will be flushed out if there's any numerical things here. Okay, so under record ID, we're going to go to edit cells. And we'll remove all matching rows. Pardon me, we're going to do common transformations. I want to do that first. And then we're going to go to number, listed right here. And now it's listed everything in the column as a number. And you can tell because it's shifted to the right and it's in green. So you know you're doing text is black, green is going to be numbers. So you're dealing with numbers in that sense. And if you want to do, you can go in under edit. And you'll say, well, what data type are you using within this particular record ID column? It's telling you number. But if you click on that, you can move from text to Boolean to date. So you just have those little options if you so desire. Change that. So we'll just leave that as is. Now, third point here is you can look under all. And you'll be tempted to use all, so be very careful how you go about it. You go to edit rows, and you go to remove matching rows. You have nothing listed here. So you might panic and go, oh no, where's everything? Don't worry, you can always undo it. There you go. Is something to keep in mind. If you're looking for matching rows, you can do that and apply it to the entire file. All right, so last thing I want to show you. So basically it's helpful in that it's showing you that, yeah, so anyway, I'm going to look at record ID. And I'm going to sort by numbers. So record ID, I'm going to go to sort. I'm going to click on sort. And here it shows how I'm going to sort. So I'm going to do numbers. And there it is. And what happens is, you'll notice right here, sort button came up. So I'm going to click on that, and it tells you, what do you want to do? Remove the sort. Do you want to reorder the rows permanently, or do you want to do it by record number? So I'm going to reorder the rows permanently, and that's what it's done. So different ways that you can manipulate the data within here. All right, so moving on to our last data set. We're going to look at grain prices from Dijon, France. There we go, I loaded that up. Now here's different problems within this particular database. You'll notice commodity and measure are right next to the dates, and the dates are from 1568 to 1630. So sometimes you get a data set like this and you have to do some work on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the date 1568. And since we're going ahead with this, we're going to create a project. And there it is. So we're going to go to 1568. I'm going to click on that. And we're going to do transpose. And we're going to transpose cells across the columns into rows. So we're going to click on that. And this will bring up to this page here. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to do one column. And what we want to do is we want to change it to year. We want to prepend the original column's name to each cell. We want it followed by a particular colon. In this case, colon. So we can put any sort of symbol in there if we wanted to. We want to ignore blank cells. And most important, we want to apply this across the entire data set. So we want to do fill down in other columns. So right now we have 1568 selected on the left-hand side here. I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to go to 1630. Oops. Pardon me, my control key. Or maybe it's the shift key. Let me do this. All right. And I'm going to transpose. Oh, and I know it worked. So transpose cells in 63 columns over that time period. And I know that it's covered everything in here. So if I didn't do, say, all columns, then it would all cells, then it would have left multiple places blank. So that's something, again, you can play with. All right, so we look at this and it looks like an interesting set going forward. We do need to work on this. So we have the dates listed here, and then it looks like the prices. So how can we clean this up? Well, we can go to year, and we can edit column. And what we want to do is we want to basically split it into several columns. So I'm going to click on that. So what is a separator? A separator is a colon. So I'm going to change this a comma to a colon. So I'm going to split it into two columns. And let's see what we get. Oh, excellent. So there we go. So we split all these cells into two. So we have year one. So we can do this. And now we want to clean that up a bit. So we can go into under edit column and go down to rename this column. So we're going to call this year. There it is. And under year two, we're going to go to edit column. And this one, we're going to rename again to price. And there you go. So now you have a particular data set listed here. And you can have, you notice these are all numerical values, which is, they probably should be. But if you want to change the text, you can do so. Now, if you want to look at the year, you can sort by year. Notice how the years are sort of all jumbled about. You can go under year. You can sort by dates. And there you go. Starting with 1568 and moving forward. And there. And you'll notice it does, the default key is the commodity. So it does all the best wheat first, then does good wheat, and it goes down that way in order. So different ways that you can sort in that. So that is essentially the presentation for today. I mentioned regarding the Google Refine expression language, the GREL. I put on the handout a number of common syntax that you can use and to solve particular problems, very common problems in there. So it can get you up and running very quickly on a particular, on any data set. And I've also listed on page 3 a number of resources that I highly recommend taking a look at. I do recommend at the bottom of the page, it talks about library carpentries. It's a 3-hour course, and you can definitely go on there and it'll walk you through in greater detail how to use OpenRefine. So there you have it. That's the presentation today. Does anyone have any questions?
No, just to say thank you very much.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I'm glad it's recorded, so I can always come to check again, because yeah, it's a lot. And I'm not an expert with data, but it was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. Much appreciated. Well, if there are no questions, here you go. I say goodbye to you and thank you very much for coming, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.